Don't speak. She's teaching now 33. Went from typewriters to PCs. Mary was on board with starting maps. Now she'll be gone and she won't give a hoot about maps. To rest. Hand back. Linda Kirsten plays guitar. Surprise, it's at church and not in a bar. She hangs with Murtaugh, Edwards, and Javon. Cause there's no lunch bunch in her compartment, sure decline. 4 keys. Right, please. Known for the art of pie, Sankey, Napoleon Dynamite, Calvary Alley. Mary's gonna have some time to fill. She'll be in the office now working with Dr. Mill. There'll be no strife. Goodbye, high school life. Retirement now is here.
Marino speaking on behalf of these retirees. Some of you are hoping that I'm about to announce that I'm going to retire too, but no, you're stuck in me. I'll say something about all 3 retirees. First of all, Lu Anne. Now, Lu Anne, you've been in the high school, what, about 5 years? 3, okay. So I haven't had a chance to get to know Lu Anne very long or very well, but she is the nicest, sweetest person. Every time I run into her in the hallway or down in the copy room, she always has a kind word to say to me, says something like, you know, I hear great things about you from your students, and I wish we had worked together on the same staff for 33 years instead of just 3 years. Cesta. Now, I taught in Hyde Park with Mary Lineker for a long time. I was there about 25 years, so I came here about 12 years ago. And my first day here, I got right into school with Jerry Reichman. And we signed in the main office, and then we're walking through the main lobby, and Cesta comes walking by in the other direction. And I just came to a dead stop, my jaw dropped wide open, I watched her walk past, and I turned to Jerry Reichman and I said, "You mean to tell me I now work in the same building as Maya Angelou?" Now, for those of you who don't know, Maya Angelou is a famous American poet. If you don't know what she looks like, after we're done here, go down to the nurse's office. They got a picture of her on the wall there. If she's not Cesta's twin sister, I don't know who is. Cesta is one of the classiest people I've ever had the pleasure of working on the same staff with. A few years ago, and I haven't done this in a few years now, but some of you might recall a few years back, I would do the walk-a-thon to raise money for multiple sclerosis. For you young people who are new on staff, I'm one of the 400,000 people in this country who has MS. Obviously, my case is very mild compared to the other people. I'm probably better off than 99% of the people with MS. The worst symptoms I ever had were my left foot went numb for about 6 months, and all things considered, that's not so bad. But for several months now, I've had very, very mild symptoms. Every once in a while, my hand or my foot will go numb for a minute or two. And if you ever see me walking around going like this, you know I'm having a little attack there. But for the most part, I've been doing pretty well. But anyway, a few years ago, I was doing one of my walk-a-thons for MS, and I was trying to raise some money, and many people throughout the building were very kind and generous enough to give me some money for MS research. And Cesta gave me a contribution, and she put it in my mailbox in an envelope, and I'm going to pass this around. The lettering on this envelope is so beautiful that I have carried this around in my briefcase for the last 3 or 4 years now, just because it's so beautiful. So pass this around. You're going to love the lettering on this. And if I can give a word of advice to all you young new teachers, I've been doing this for a long time. I carry around in my briefcase, and I urge you to carry around your briefcase or your bag or wherever you carry your things. Carry around an extra folder where you can put things like when somebody gives you a nice present like this, when a student writes you a note thanking you for being their teacher, when a kid writes an article about you in the student newspaper, when a parent writes you thanking you for teaching their children, when a colleague puts a note in your mailbox saying, hey, that was really pretty dress you were wearing the other day. I haven't had that one too often. But carry that around in a folder in your briefcase or your bag, and every once in a while, when I have a bad day or even just a bad period, at the end of the day or during a free period, I get out that folder and I thumb through it, and it really helps a lot. You know, you wonder how people like our 3 retirees can last for 30 years, or a guy like me can last for 37 years. We keep coming back again. It's because of the kind of stuff that I carry around in that kind of a folder. So I urge you young folks to do something like that. But anyway, you know, as I said, Cesta's envelope there was so beautiful. I carry it around just because it helps cheer my day every once in a while. Now, Mary Lineker. Not only am I and all of you on the same staff as Mary Lineker on her very last day in the teaching profession, I was also a fellow staff member of hers on her very first day in the teaching profession. And that was 33 years ago, September 9, 1980. I looked it up on the internet. I didn't memorize that. But you know, that year, Labor Day, September 1 was a Monday, and Labor Day can't be on September 1. It has to be the day after the first Sunday in September. So Labor Day was September 8, which is the latest you can have Labor Day. Therefore, the school year started on September 9, which is the latest the school year can possibly start. And it's almost as if the gods of education were thinking, let's put off the start of the school year as long as possible just to see if this chick, are you really sure you want to do this? You want to back out here still? But anyway, I met Mary on Tuesday, September 9, 1980, on her very first day in the teaching profession. I had already been teaching about 4 years at that point. And we became friends. We both became active in the teachers union for a while. She was the secretary of the teachers union. And to show you just how sick things were in Hyde Park, for a while they made me the president. And we'd have our meetings, and I would babble incoherently at the meetings, sort of similar to what I'm doing right now. But when the minutes came out a few days later, and Mary had prepared the minutes a few days later, somehow she took my incoherent babblings and turned into something that made sense. So thank you, Mary, for doing that. Now, I never wanted to be the president of the teachers union, but what happened was our previous president, a science teacher named Carl Neighbor, who had only been on the job of president for just a couple of months, one day he had a mild heart attack at school. They took him away in the ambulance, and he recovered, so he went on to teach for about another 15 more years, but his doctor told him, forget about the stress of being president. So they had to find a new president. So at the next executive board meeting, they sat around and they said, who can we make the president? And somebody said, let's pick Reno. He'd be dumb enough to do it. So that's how I became the president of the teachers union. And a similar thing happened to me about 6 years ago. Many of you know that I umpire high school baseball. And 6 years ago, the president of the Baseball Umpires Association, Ron Weiss, had a heart attack and passed away. And they needed a new president for the teachers, for the Umpires Association. So once again, they figured Reno would be dumb enough to do it, so they made me the president. So I got to tell you, I was half expecting a couple months back, when Mr. Glasgow went on leave, that they were going to come to me and say, could you be principal for the remainder of the school year? But fortunately, the people in charge around here were wise enough to carry on in a different direction. Now, be honest, how many of you saw that coming? Anyway, a few years back, I wrote some parodies of some Christmas carols, and I shared them with the members of the math department, and a lot of them enjoyed those. So I thought, because I've known Mary for so long, and I have such high respect for the other retirees, I felt inspired to write a couple of Christmas carols, or not Christmas carols, a couple songs about them as well. And these are all pretty short. You know, I'm not going to go on forever here. Some of them are only about 30 or 40 seconds long. But you know, I figured since these are such three classy ladies, I got to start off with something kind of classy. Maybe something from a Broadway show, for instance. And since they're classy ladies, maybe a show like My Fair Lady. Now, those of you who are young, I don't know if you're familiar with the song On the Street Where You Live. By show of hands, how many are familiar with the song On the Street Where You Live? Okay, I see a lot of people did not raise their hand. That's the song that goes something like, I have often walked down this street before, and the pavement always stayed beneath my feet before. All at once I'm high, several stories high, knowing I'm on the street where you live. I thought that'd be a good one to start with, so I've changed the words to fit the retirees. I have often walked down these halls before, and I've often banged my head against these walls before. I hate maps, tests, and May, but I love to say that I work in the school where you teach. People stop and stare, that don't mean a thing, 'cause you've taught your students how to think and type and sing. Your APPRs should say how proud we are that we work in the school where you teach. Your APPRs should say how proud we are that we work in the school where you teach. Now you might be thinking right about now, you know, Reno, between you and the art department, that's pretty sick that you would write retirees some good farewell songs, including the words maps, tests, and APPRs. There's another song coming along in a few minutes where I include the word agenda, so look out for that too. But anyway, I ran into a Cesta in the hallway a couple weeks back, and we were chatting, and she mentioned that at one point in her life she lived in Detroit. And I thought, wow, a black person who makes their living in the field of music, and they're from Detroit. Now, if you grew up during the 1960s like I did, and like these retirees did, when you think of black music and Detroit, this all adds up to one thing: the Motown sound. Hey! So I thought maybe I could take a couple Motown songs and write something with the retirees about that. Now, my favorite Motown group was the Temptations. The Temptations were big. They weren't the biggest Motown group, but they were big. And they may have been the most important Motown group because the Temptations, for a while, it was just the black kids who were into Motown. But the Temptations got the white kids into Motown because the white kids loved the way the guys in the background would act out the song. So like, for instance, a song like My Girl, it would be like, I got sunshine on a cloudy day, when it's cold outside, I got the month of May. Well, I guess you'd say, what could make me feel this way? My girl, my girl, my girl, talking about my girl. Anyway. So I thought, if the Temptations were here today, what would they say about our retirees? Well, I believe they would turn to Lu Anne and they would say, I know you're gonna leave here, but I don't want to see you go. If I have to beg and plead for your sympathy, I don't mind, 'cause you mean that much to me. Ain't too proud to beg, bend over, please don't leave here, don't you go. Ain't too proud to plead, bend over, don't you leave here, don't you go. Ain't too proud to beg, bend over, please don't leave here, don't you go. Ain't too proud to plead, bend over, please don't leave here, don't you go. Now, as I said, the Temptations were not the biggest Motown group. For instance, one of the bigger groups was these 5 brothers from Gary, Indiana. And even though a couple of the brothers were teenagers, they realized that the most talented brother among them was their little 8-year-old brother. So they were smart enough to make him as their lead singer. And I thought, what would Michael Jackson and the Jackson 5 do if they were here today? Or what would they say? I think they would turn to Cesta, and they would say, when you worked at PHS, you taught kids how to sing. The music always sounded real good way down in your wing. But now you'll soon be leaving us, and we are feeling sad. Although I'm sure retirement will make you really glad. Oh, Siesta, give us one more chance. Won't you please stay here, stay in our school? Oh, Siesta, we're sad to see you go. So why won't you stay here anymore? Oh, Siesta, we want you back. Yes, Siesta, we want you back. Oh, Siesta, we want you back. Yes, Siesta, we want you back. As big as the Jackson 5 were, they were not even the biggest Motown group. The biggest Motown group were these three girls who, one was named Mary Wilson, another one was named Florence Ballard, and they had a lead singer who was extremely talented. And I thought, what would Diana Ross and the Supremes say if they were here today? Well, I think they would turn to Mary. Where are you, Mary? There you are. I think they say, Mary, Mary, we're aware that you'll be going when you walk out that door. But when you're sitting at home in September, we want to leave you with some words to remember. Stop in the name of the vow, stop in the name of the vow, because you're still our pal. Oh. Now, those songs are all well and good, but I thought, is there perhaps one song that kind of really wraps up and really pinpoints what we're all talking about here today? And even though this is not a Motown song, it was recorded by about 100 different groups, at least one of which could be classified as a good friend of Motown. It was first of all written and recorded by a group of white guys from San Francisco who always kind of pretended they were from the bayou country of Louisiana. So it was written by John Fogerty and Creedence Clearwater Revival, but in 1971 it was also recorded by some friends of Motown, Ike and Tina Turner. So, this is for all three of the retirees. They taught at a school in a city, working every day here at PHS, and their students say it every day, that these three ladies are three of the best. Lu Anne Cesta taught with style, and proud Mary made kids smile. At a high school, yeah. High school near a river. At a high school, yeah. High school near a river. But when she Cesta taught with style, and pride Mary make his smile. At a high school, yeah. High school near a river. High school near a river. One more to go. Just one more to go. Now, I wrote those five, it's been 5 songs up to now, believe it or not. So I wrote those 5 songs, and I thought, you know, that's nice, but there's one problem with all those songs. Every one of those songs is over 40 years old. So we got a bunch of young people here today who have never heard of any of these songs, and they certainly, if they have heard of them, they can't relate to these songs at all. So I thought, is there something perhaps a little more contemporary that the young folks could relate to? This is not a Motown song, but it's something contemporary. So I was thinking, now would Carly Rae Jepsen be contemporary enough for you? I think these ladies are cool, hope I'm not being a fool. Now here is my golden rule, I want them in my school. The kids are driving us mad, some days they make me feel sad. Hope this agenda ain't bad, I want them in my school. Please don't retire, what new people could we hire? It's all true, I'm not a liar. Where you think you're going, ladies? Hey, we will miss you, but this is crazy. Please don't retire. stay here maybe, cause all the students will drive us crazy. Please don't retire and stay here maybe. They did their jobs really well, working with them has been swell. Come on, let's ring that school bell. I want them in my school. They've taught here so many years, we'll soon be crying our tears. I hope I've made myself clear. I want them in my school. Please don't retire. What new people could we hire? It's all true, I'm not a liar. Where you think you're going, ladies? Hey, we will miss you, but this is crazy. Please don't retire and stay here maybe, cause all the students will drive us crazy. Please don't retire and stay here maybe. If you retire from this school, we'll miss you so bad. We'll miss you so bad. We'll miss you so bad. If you retire from this school, we'll miss you so bad. We'll miss you so bad. We'll miss you so bad. I'm almost done with this song. I hope it wasn't too long. I hope I've said nothing wrong. I want them in my school. All that we say here is true. We're really gonna miss you. In fact, we already do. I want them in my school. Please don't retire. What new people could we hire? It's all true, I'm not a liar. Where do you think you're going, ladies? Hey, we will miss you, but this is crazy. Please don't retire and stay here maybe, cause all the students will drive us crazy. Please don't retire and stay here maybe. If you retire from this school, we'll miss you so bad. We'll miss you so bad. We'll miss you so bad. If you retire from this school, we'll miss you so bad. We'll miss you so bad. At a high school. At a high school. At a high school near us.